you're the child of an immigrant, your life is just different than your friends' lives. Your parents speak a different language than their parents do. When you get sick, they slather you in herbs and oils. And you're not allowed to have fun 2 days in a row. That's pretty much standard across the board. Today on the show is a fellow first-generation American, hilarious stand-up comic, Kunal Arora, and we are talking about the wild life of growing up with immigrant parents. This is a bit too much.
How old were you when you left? When your family left Bushwick?
I guess 1990.
So how old were you?
Oh, I'm like five.
Five? Okay, yeah. All right. So and then where'd they go? Jersey?
No, we just went into Queens.
Okay.
We went to like Howard Beach.
All right.
For a while.
Yeah. Other Italian ass spot.
Yeah, that is. Well, so Flushing has always been, or maybe not always, but has been for as long as I've been alive. A very diverse area, right? Like, I mean,
Flushing,
very Asian, but not really singular to any one.
It was like
race.
Asian, like not like the way that people. So right now, I would say when you think of Asian, you think Chinese or Korean,
right.
Stuff like that, or Japanese, right? The big three, as we like to call it. And you don't ever think about like the other Asians, like the Filipinos, the Mongolians, Indians, Russians.
Yeah,
nobody thinks about Russians as Asians either, you know? No, not at all. So Flushing was very Asian, and this included the big three and the others as well too.
Make them sound like corporations.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like Philip Morris.
Yeah.
Big Asia doesn't want you to know this.
Philip Morris. Winston-Salem doesn't want to hear it, dude. It's. I mean, the amount of smoking they did there, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was mostly Chinese. I would say a majority Chinese, and then Korean and Indian. My parents owned a grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah, like they had jobs, like actual jobs. They worked.
And they owned a grocery store.
And then this is what happened. My parents, they worked as accountants, but not like in the traditional sense.
Okay.
They were called accountants, but really they just went to hospital. They worked in a hospital, and their job was to write insurance companies and tell them to cover the bill that they owe.
You see where my Italian mind went when you said accountants, but not accountants?
Yeah.
Like if somebody in my family said, I'm an accountant.
Yeah, but not
air quoted accountant. You're like,
yeah.
Got it. You definitely work with numbers.
Yes, yeah.
You're definitely moving numbers.
You're moving numbers, right. But I'm gonna tell you right now, when your family is like comes from India and they like work in jobs that are not like for my family to be union workers, which is what they were when they worked these accountant jobs, like you get to see like how it has an effect on my parents. Like they were in a union and I'm watching them like understand like, oh, I have rights here.
I have rights.
I have like, they can't, like, I remember towards the end of my mom's working career, I remember I'd pick her up from work from time to time and she was just like, that bitch Jackie thinks she could talk to me like that. And I'm like, yo, who are you?
You are fully American now.
Yeah, like this lady is in now.
Mama, your name's Katie. Now.
Yeah, like she's just like all she needed was a cigarette and like just a nice like and a whiskey, you know? Like she was angry. So and I was like, all right, but that's what happens with it. Unions are good. I mean, I still believe in unions because I grew up with them. Sure. But I still think that a union has its merit. But you also see how people get a little out there.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. But you said something interesting. Like it took them a while to sort of feel that way and recognize like their rights, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there is definitely of a certain generation at least. I don't think it's necessarily the case anymore. Maybe a little bit, but there was definitely a generation of people who came over from other countries to America that never really felt assimilated.
Oh,
right?
No, of course. Yeah.
Like never.
Because think about what you just said with your family. Like they were in Bushwick when there was a lot of Italians there.
Yeah.
Then they moved to Howard Beach, which is predominantly Italian.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like
they just stay in there.
You stay in your own, and that's New York City, man. Yeah. It's still to a degree. Yeah.
I feel like there's just smaller pockets now.
There are smaller. Those pockets still exist.
Yeah.
But they're still out there.
It's not a whole ass neighborhood anymore, though. As much.
Right. But there's still like my mom lives in a part of Queens that is predominantly Indian.
Right.
She lives in Belrose, and that used to be an Italian neighborhood. Sure. I remember when my mom moved into this neighborhood, I would walk into a deli and they had like 30 sandwiches named after Yankee players. It's just like you want
right.
And it's just like the guy was like looking at me ordering a sandwich.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, man, I've grown up in this city the entire time. He's looking at me like I'm the problem. I'm like, dude, I'm about to put money in this place.
Right. I feel like that's a New York thing.
Yeah.
The named after celebrities. I mean, I can see that being in Boston too. Or
Of course.
Bunch of Red Sox.
Yeah, when you have, when all your city has to a degree is like, this is what you celebrate. When you got a sports team you could be proud of, you're going to name sandwiches after
It's
them.
everywhere.
That's what it is. So it's just like, I'd walk in and be like, let me get the A-Rod. And the guy's like, yeah, all right. And it's like, what are you, crazy, dude? I mean, they were closed like 2 years later because, of course, Indian people don't eat meat like that. So it ended up just,
Was the yeah, all right? Like why are you here?
Yeah, it was sort of like,
really?
No, I think it was more like he could see the shift happening.
Oh,
you see what I'm
okay.
saying? Like you could see how more and more Indians were moving in.
Right.
And it's not like the Indian people that moved into this town were coming in with guns. You know what I mean? Like they bought your Nona's house, dude.
Yeah.
Like she was living there. She didn't want to live there anymore.
She was okay with selling it to anyone that would give her the money.
Exactly. And these Indian people and Asian people were paying cash.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, you're telling me you don't want to send Nona to a nice little place down in Florida where she can be comfortable?
Saw that a lot in Brooklyn. There was like these Italian or Russian pockets or Polish, like Greenpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a lot of like sort of other foreign cash buyers would come in and just go, this is our neighborhood now. You know what I mean? Not that it's really a consensus like that, but I think when you're over in whatever country you're coming from, like both of my parents came, multiple siblings, but like one at a time. It took them years for each of them to come over.
To come over from Italy.
Yeah, because, like my mom's mom was actually born in America. It's a story I just found out recently. Yeah. She was born in America, but her mom took her back to Italy at a very young age.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think more people should go back. Right. I'm all about it.
They're trying. They're like absolutely trying to get people back to Italy. Italy specifically. Yeah. Because they're like giving. They're like they'll give you a house for
There's
like
incentives.
$100. Yeah.
Yes, I saw a TikTok about like go back about people living in America.
Yeah.
And then going back to Italy
or their kids. Like you get dual citizenship.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that. I remember doing research on this for like a bit. About if you're an immigrant, like if your parents came here and you're the child of immigrants, you're gonna do better than them, percentage wise. Yeah. And your kids will do not as good as you did percentage wise, and their kids will do terrible.
Oh my God.
So technically, I only think that you should spend a couple, like maybe 2 generations,
get it out of,
and then be out.
But do you think it's like that's because that's what happens with generations of like, you come, you assimilate, then your kids, or is it just because it's like so unaffordable to live in America now?
I don't know what
is that current statistic.
I don't know. Is it based on the fact that like now they're in a new place and there's that either survive or die situation, thrive or die situation, right? Or I don't know what those statistics are, like what causes people to do that. All I know is that get out of this country. No, I'm kidding. That's
you know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, you know who I'm.
But I'm surprised that more don't, especially like, so I'm going to speak about Italians specifically.
Yeah, of course.
There are a lot of angry Italians in America.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think, no, man, there are a lot of groups. It's not just Italian.
It's not. Yeah.
There's groups across the board. Everyone's got frustration.
Yeah.
But I think that if, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's their own experiences. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if they go back to Italy, it sounds so racist.
Go back.
If they go back to Italy,
where you came from.
Would they be happier? You know what I mean? Would they? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think so. It just comes up to what the obstacles you know what I mean? Like
they've probably gotten used to air conditioning.
I don't know. See what I mean? That's wild. That's wild that we're assuming that Italy got no air conditioning.
Well, no. I have a cousin who, when it wasn't that long ago when she was here.
I got one cousin.
I have one cousin who's still there.
Yeah.
And she, because my whole family's in America, I have one cousin that's still there. And it's like, there's air conditioning.
Sure.
But they don't use it, really, unless it's like that day where they're like,
dude,
they're going to die in their own house.
We're such ignorant Americans, dude. That's crazy. It's like if I come on here and be like, yo, I got a cousin in India, they shit in the ground, dude. These people are savages, bro.
Well, I'm speaking from one person.
One
stat.
One house. But Italy has no air conditioning. Meanwhile, I'm out here going, they only shit in the ground, these animals.
Right.
Like, and that's what happens. People think that, but those other countries, I would say when we were, like, how old are you?
38.
38?
Yeah.
I'm older than you? That upsets me. All right.
You know, you're the second person I had here in a row who had that reaction.
Yeah.
And I know, and I get it.
Yeah,
I know.
That does seem mad offensive on my end to be like, wait a minute, you look worse than me, but I feel...
I should be a little upset.
Yeah.
But I also know what I look like. They're like, I'm
bad, dude.
in the mirror every fucking morning. Like,
Sure.
how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always, I think, looked a little older, but now I look like bad older. Like I look,
I mean, it's not the gray hair, I don't think.
No, you have grays.
No, of course I'm not going to say it's the gray hairs.
Yeah, right. No, can't be that.
Yeah, I will say this though.
It's a general.
When the grays go, the general sink of your face.
Yeah, I mean, like I got huge bags under my eyes.
Sure. Right.
My wife tries to convince me to put those, like, those patches.
She's not wrong.
I do them sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
I just didn't want to admit that. But now that you're on board, I had to see if you were on board.
Right. No, buddy. I'm all for it. Moisturizing, water.
Right.
Just seeing dudes my age, and I have the gray hair, and I'm okay with that, or I'm becoming more and more okay with it.
Right.
But I'll see dudes that are my age, or I'll do shows in small towns.
Yeah.
And I'll look at a guy's like body, and I'll be like, his body looks young, but his face looks haggard.
So I got small town face.
Yeah,
that's what you say to me. I have fucking.
My bad. That's not what I meant.
I was like, I'm gonna work at the mill my whole life.
Yeah, dude, I'm saying that, like, whatever your wife is suggesting, do it, dude. That's all I'm saying. All right, you know what I mean?
Anything.
Yeah, do anything. Like, they're right, man. They're totally right. Like, your face is like, I mean, and I'm not saying you. I'm saying, like, I was at a show last night.
You first you said me.
Yeah,
now you're saying
I'm saying in other people. Other people, so we can continue on this episode in a way that's there was a dude, I was looking at him as a human being. I'm like, his body looks young, but his face looks mad.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I go, how old are you? You're definitely younger than me. And he goes, 30. And I go, yikes.
30. yeah.
I literally said yikes at him. And he goes, ouch. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, dude, but you got to moisturize.
I looked great at 30, but it's been a bad 8 years since
Well, you're also a father.
I'm a dad.
Yeah.
So that is the other side of it. Like, I have this. I grew this beard right before my daughter was born.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming the beard. It's
sure,
the rest.
Sure,
it's what's under the beard that's the problem.
Right.
The beard is fucking helping, if anything. At least I'm masking some of it.
Big dudes, bigger guys, a beard is stellar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I look back and I'm like, how did I not have a beard? I didn't have a beard my whole life. I'm like, how did I not do that? But I think about all the, going back to the original thing we were talking about, but I don't have, no Italians growing up, they all had spiky hair.
Yes.
And you growing up in Queens, I'm sure you
Are you kidding me? Blowout, dude.
You had a blowout.
Of course I had a blowout. Come on now. Watch your goddamn mouth. Are you crazy? I had bangs at one point, like a tiny Asian girl. What, are you out of your mind?
Tight black tee?
Yeah, tight black
Gold
tee.
chain?
I had silver. Let's relax. Didn't have it like that. And then also to the nod to the Asians, I'd be wearing Jenko khakis, wide leg khaki pants.
Wow.
Yeah, with the lugs boots. A little nod to my brothers out in Queens as well.
Yeah.
Had to keep it a little bit of hood. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So if you couldn't afford Tim's, lugs were the poor man's Tim's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Italians will buy that gold chain and get those Tims.
Oh yeah.
And like can't afford it. I'm still kind of that way. I'm still not completely out of that. Like, I will still be like, I really shouldn't do this.
Poor man mentality.
But like 100%.
Yeah.
And even as I've gotten older and I've done, my wife and I have done well for ourselves, and I can afford Jordans now.
Of course.
I still I have a kid.
Yeah.
We've got a mortgage.
Sure.
There's that. I mean, like, how many pairs of Jordan 1s, specifically Jordan 1s, do I need?
You reach a point where it's just like, and I think this is every guy's journey in terms of like shoes, and some people, they stick on it, right?
Yeah.
They
Style
land
in general,
on being
right?
a shoe person.
Yeah.
And that's like sort of like their side sort of thing.
Yeah.
They enjoy it a bit. Like, it's like how you kind of like kick back in a way.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But like, I mean, I look at it too. It's just like, you know what I'd rather have? Yeah. I'd rather be able to afford a vacation.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if I got to forsake a pair of SB Dunks, those are my kicks that I like.
Right.
And I'll be like, let me do that. Yeah. Cool.
I think talking about Italians, like for what I grew up with, they did the same thing. They just did them with like leather shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my dad just had leather shoes.
Of course.
My dad was, he owned like a unisex barbershop.
Yeah.
Or salon, right? Not really a barbershop.
Right.
And he was, silky button down shirt. He was like, he was that Italian.
Yeah.
Like he tried to paint a little bit when he was like 19, and he's like, no, fuck this. And he found a bunch. It's so funny because he found a bunch of other, like 3 other Italian men that are just like him off the boat.
Yeah.
They were like, that hard work shit isn't for us.
Let's
learn how to, let's spend our money on getting our licenses and let's learn how to cut hair.
Beautiful.
And that's what my dad did for years.
Man, I think that's great when you find your tribe like that. It's dope. My parents, they worked at these hospital jobs, and my mom was like, let's buy a house, and one day my dad came home and he was like, I bought a store. And let me tell you, that is crazy to do.
Like your mom didn't know? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm worried about bringing my fucking Jordans home.
Yeah, dude. So, you know what I mean? When you're thinking about your Jordans, at least you're not going, oh, by the way, I spent all our savings.
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So my dad came home and bought a grocery store.
Yeah.
He effectively made us an Indian stereotype by owning.
Right.
We owned an Indian grocery store. And it was... And this is
did that go well for you? Did they have
no? My dad barely.
I thought you were gonna say they were like one of that bodega.
No,
staple.
Dude, no. My dad barely finished high school. My mom had an art degree.
Right.
Like, they had no business sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So and my dad was also like, he was, he just, what he had been told. I guess like somebody, in India, they're big on reading your charts. Star charts, where it tells you what your life is going to be. And I guess some priest had told him that one day he's going to own a business. And it's like, that could be interpreted many ways, dude. How about you own your,
what is it, that fortune that one person told you?
Yeah, he's sitting there with the thing. He's like, and he's folding out the paper. I don't remember what the name of that thing is either.
Yeah.
So he's doing that. And he bought a store, an Indian grocery store. And my mom was like trying her damnedest.
Yeah.
And she came up with ideas on how to keep it running. Right. And credits to her, that thing lasted a lot longer than it should have. And then we closed the store because they had to escape bankruptcy.
Right.
Yeah. And we went from we were looking at houses in deep Queens, in Long Island.
And that's what. And
then that all went away.
Yeah.
My family, we became effectively broke, real bad. And then my mom, she didn't know that to an immigrant family, declaring bankruptcy is a mark of shame. You cannot.
Everything is a mark of shame.
Yes,
everything that is negative.
100%.
Finance wise, your kid does something. Everything is. That's what I grew up in, man.
Of course.
Shame.
Yeah, it's a lot of, but to declare bankruptcy is I didn't know, growing up, I thought it was the most awful thing in the world, and then now, later on, you come to realize, no, you can declare bankruptcy and be fine.
Yeah, it's a way to actually get yourself back on track.
Yeah.
Where people think it just means I have nothing.
Yeah, declaring bankruptcy is whoops. That's what declaring bankruptcy really means.
It's the whoopsie, yeah.
Yeah, it's the whoops. Apparently, I shouldn't do this.
Right.
You find out that big business owners declare bankruptcy all the time. Not all the time, but they'll do it if they gotta.
And they exist.
Yeah, because they'd rather hold on to their money. I remember I used to work at this restaurant called The Sizzler. It was it's a horrible restaurant, and they declared bankruptcy 3 times and came back with the same business model.
I mean, someone should have put the Sizzler out of business
years ago.
Not for financial reasons.
No, for just the food. The menu should have been the reasoning.
I feel like I have food poisoning just talking about.
Yeah, it's a disgusting. But that's the thing is you have. My parents didn't know this. Right. Instead, they were like, we can't be considered bankrupt because they thought to them they would be paraded through the town. Look at this family. They declared bankruptcy.
Right. Shame.
Yeah.
The fucking Game of Thrones shame.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So, my mom did everything she could to scrape together money and, save, borrow, beg, whatever she could. And then, we left our apartment. We got priced out of Flushing, because we just didn't have the money. And my mom was like, if I sell this apartment, I can also get ourselves out of debt, move to deep Queens, which is where we moved when I was 16.
What part?
Belrose. In an apartment, though. We lived in an apartment, and my mom was like, I'm going to try to, I'm going to just what I can to get by, try to make it work. And she took over all the finances from my dad. And my mom eventually bought a house.
The interesting thing is, so yes, the shame goes along with it.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome story to the bounce back of that.
Yeah.
The shame goes along with it, but you'd think, a lot of immigrants would be like, I mean, it's horrible, but they'd be like, we've been here before. My parents grew up dirt poor. My dad grew up in a mountain, and my mom grew up in a farm.
Yeah. My mom grew up in a village,
right,
where they had like, it was like a super small village in India. Like planes would fly over, and they would be impressed.
Yeah.
You know how crazy that is, dude?
Yeah.
You know how wild it is to think, like, when people talk to me and they meet me and they're like, oh, it's just like, but you don't know what I've like, where my parents came from.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you think about where they started, to look at a plane, like, I mean, dude, that's like Amazonian shit.
Right. All of my mom's stories are like, I almost was killed by a bull.
Yeah.
I got into a lemon throwing fight.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Like, when she was a kid, they were throwing lemons at each other.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is like she grew up on a dirt road in essentially
my mom's
a hut, all shared, beds.
Of course, yeah. My mom's dad, my grandfather, died of TB. Who the hell dies of TB?
I mean, they did.
They did, though.
Yeah.
My girlfriend...
Instead of the flu.
Yeah, my girlfriend in college had TB.
Yeah.
And she beat it in like 7 days.
Yeah, she's like, I got a little TB.
Yeah. She's like, this TB is bothering me. And I go, my grandfather died. I never met him.
This thing how people in my family. They take this shit seriously.
Right. This is a legit disease.
That's going to be COVID one day.
Yeah. I mean, God willing not, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so when you think about it, it's like the journey that the first generation immigrants come from to here, even to where you are now.
Right.
Like where we're sitting now is just eons.
Fucking bonkers when you think about those two people, your parents.
Yeah.
Do your parents know each other in India, or they knew each other?
It was arranged in India.
Oh, it was arranged. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't even know each other.
So my parents met in America, but they were both, basically didn't speak English at that point. They both moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And to think about that, they went from that mountain town. My dad used to smoke manure.
Like, what do you mean? Like get high off of it?
Well, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But it was like instead of tobacco, because they didn't have tobacco.
Yo, that is crazy.
He used to smoke
that's wild.
fucking cow shit.
Yeah.
Or horse or whatever manure they had at the time.
Right, of course. You can't be picky when you're smoking manure, dude. Yeah, you just accept it.
I mean, my dad tells me some of those stories too. He's like, we played soccer with rocks. And it's like, I don't know if you did that.
Yeah. It's always that thing. I will say this though.
But I think the manure thing's real. They had papers, but they didn't.
Yeah, of course. We'll probably be the last generation to say we walked uphill both ways in snow.
Yeah.
Because the way that's not snowing, it's like so.
Yeah, I mean, but that mentality of, that's got to be a crazy, like your parents, let's say we're all going to America. Like, you're like, then you're a kid in that country, right?
Yeah.
And then you get here and it is a complete fucking culture shock.
Of course.
It makes so much sense now. They grow up, they go through everything they go through. Hard.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard.
Right.
It's not like anything else in terms of like growing up. But even if you grew up in poverty, growing up as an immigrant in poverty is a whole different.
Yeah, because
the language barrier, the perception.
Yes, you're not given. There's a lot of things that like you're just. Even small things, right? Let's take something small. Like sometimes somebody will throw on a song, like they're like, oh, you don't know this song by Tom Petty, and it's like, no, dude. I listened to my mom played Indian music all the time.
Right, yeah. I grew up
it's in a language I can barely understand now. Right. So it's just like, I don't know everything by the Beatles.
Right.
Like these are just small things. And that's not even
food.
And then food, right. But then you take all those things and it just adds further and further as to how much different it makes you as a person.
Yeah.
Like then there's expenses, then there's finances. Right. All these things just make such an immigrant upbringing so much vastly different.
So different
than growing up with parents that were raised here.
Yeah.
Like those parents understand the game.
Right.
And you don't, when your parents...
Right, they had that head start. They understand the system a little.
Right. So when your parents don't understand the game and they come here and they're like, we're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Then it's just like, then your job is to figure it out, And it's like, I don't know, like, because what comes second nature to someone whose parents that were raised here, to me is like, this is my first time discovering this.
First generation Americans, it's almost like we grew up half in our parents' country in a way, because the culture, they just bring over the culture. And especially if you grew up in an area where you just surround yourself with that culture.
Well, yeah. It's what the first part of what you're talking about reminds me of like, and I've heard this from friends, we've talked about it, where it's just like everything my parents grew up in is a time capsule of India in the 1970s. In that time.
Right.
So that's the belief system they brought.
Yeah.
Like, and it's mad ignorant. Like, it's just like, my parents have some backwards ass views.
Of course.
Yeah. And I'm not going to dunk on them about it, but it's just like, I hear these views and I go, yo, you guys are like wildly old school.
Yeah.
But when they go back to India, they're out of touch too.
Right, because it's not that way anymore.
Yeah,
I made
like
a joke about the air conditioning, but like they do have those amenities, and there's more open-mindedness.
Right, there are toilets that are not in the ground.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, gay marriage and like just relationships. Like they're doing drugs. Like there's just like people they've progressed in India, but my parents have stayed insulated, and we didn't even have an Indian community. Like growing up.
Right. You had a mixed.
Yeah, we had a super mixed community because like it was just, we didn't really, like my parents owned a grocery store but my dad was like, he kind of stuck away from all those people.
Right.
He was just like, he did his own thing, I guess. And I mean, it's healthy and it can be negative in different ways too, you know?
Oh, for sure. Well, yes, it is. It does manifest in some negativity because it's again, you don't really want to shit on them about it because it's an upbringing that is very unlike what they were able to provide for us, right? So like I had half of it, but I did not have the come to a different country and not know the language.
Right.
That alone.
Yeah.
Come here at 10.
Yeah.
You know, you're a 10-year-old's pretty set in their fucking ways at that point. My 3-year-old's set in their ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Pick her up and put her in a country where she can't get by language wise. That alone is fucking bonkers, right? And then now you're but as a first generation American, you grew up with all these, the food, like you said, there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, I learned about this at like 16.
Did your parents ever send you to school with food? Did they make you lunch?
My lunches.
Oh, God. An Italian lunch, I'm so excited about this. I'm really stoked.
I would bring a Tupperware.
Of course.
Of like chicken cacciatore.
Yo, that is phenomenal, dude.
You think it is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, me now, if my wife packed me chicken cacciatore, I'd be like, you are the best. You're the best.
Yeah, of course.
But
as a child, you think of it as such a burden.
Peanut butter jelly, bologna, turkey.
Yeah. All those things.
The snacks. So the snacks, like, sometimes you get somebody with an apple and like a cookie.
I just imagine
I think that's what the snacks are.
I just imagine you having like a biscotti and an espresso during the lunch hour. You know what I mean? The teacher's trying to talk about nap time and you're like, teach, what are we doing?
I'm wide awake.
Yeah, we're out here. Let's go outside, have a smoke.
Relax. I'm sorry, hitting on the teacher.
Yeah.
Sleazy Italian.
Yeah, you're touching her knee.
Sweetheart, sit down.
Let me talk to you right here, you know?
No, well, it's not that far off, really.
Yeah.
I would go to school with like a massive sandwich on like Italian semolina bread.
Beautiful.
This beautiful sandwich, but I wouldn't be able to finish the sandwich with all the bullshitting, and I'm like talking to everyone at lunch, and I'm trying to like fit in because I kind of don't,
right?
Because I didn't really grow up around a lot of other kids who had immigrant parents. They had like immigrant grandparents or great-grandparents.
Sure, yeah.
And so I was a little like they were Italian descent, but it was a little different. And that's in their minds, you're Italian, I'm Italian, whatever. Right. But it's like, no, you didn't grow up with like Nutella, right? Like that is now like it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. That thing was not known. People didn't, you only found it in Italian grocery stores.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, that was the quick, like my parents would give me a Nutella on white bread sandwich. And they're like, you're eating your parents don't love you. You're eating a chocolate sandwich.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you're like, this is hazelnut
I'm
spread.
like, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, this is phenomenal.
But I didn't even defend it. I was embarrassed. Like, I would have.
When you're a kid, of course.
Yeah.
Because what's not part of the tribe, you feel so out of it. My mom would. My mom didn't give us lunch. Right, she didn't make us lunch.
By school.
When we went to school, like I'd reduced lunch.
Right.
So I'd have to pay less than other kids for lunch. But the thing is this though, is that my mom the night before when she was making dinner, she was also doing laundry. So our clothes would smell like Indian food.
Oh, dude, yes.
The scent, and if you think like, listen, man, I get it. Garlic is a strong scent.
Yeah.
But you cannot compete against Indian food. Yo, when I would leave the house, I'd smell. I'm like, come on, not again, dude.
Yeah,
not
friends
again.
make fun of you for smelling.
Dude, they're like, oh, they'd cut me like, when hey, what's up? They come close and they're like, oh, dude, you smell like curry, and it's like, oh God, let me die. You know?
Oh yeah, you want to fucking die. I went to a school dance smelling like fried shrimp.
Yeah,
like my mom was
garlic shrimp.
Well, it was like a deep fried breaded shrimp that she was making into like a.
And that oil smell gets in your clothes.
Oh, that is in the air.
Yes,
oil is in the air.
Oh,
that is on you.
Uh-huh.
Like, have have you ever worked in like restaurants?
Yeah,
and
of course,
halls
of course.
When you're in the kitchen,
Yeah.
that shit. Those clothes are your work clothes.
They're done.
They're done.
They're done. The thing is when your
Oils.
family is cooking with oil, like heavy oil, and then
extra virgin olive oil.
When it gets in your clothes, it's one thing. But this is the thing: it gets in your skin.
It does get in.
So as soon as you're flustered,
right,
the entire room. It's sort of like a drunk that comes to work the next day.
Oh yeah, it's coming out of them.
Yeah, it's coming out of your pores.
It's not just their breath. Yeah, they brush their teeth.
No, you can't brush your body like that, dude. There's just all the soap in the world. You shower in the morning. As soon as your sweat glands, it's in you.
It's inside you, and it's going to come
when
out.
I'm sitting in school and I start to sweat and you smell naan, it's not good, dude. When you smell saag paneer, I'm losing.
Meanwhile, now I'm like fucking hungry.
Oh, I'm starving. I'm thinking about going to my cousin's now. I'm like, let me go over there, see what happens. Yeah.
Well, and food is fucking everything to a lot of culture. Like when you come over with
the
different
Italian,
culture,
I will say I try to think about the similarities between different cultures.
Yeah, me too.
And
Yeah,
Indians and Italians, the love of food is so bonkers. And I think
it's everything.
It's everything. And there's something, what really bothers me is that, and I'm starting to see it now, but I've been doing this my entire life. I've been combining Indian and Italian food in just ways that have just mean so much to me.
In the same moment?
Yeah.
Oh, like what?
Like think about like if you can buy naan in stores.
Yeah.
Right? And I would make like an Indian pizza.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if you take the sauce from butter chicken and you put that on naan and you throw a little fresh mutz, come on, dude.
Mutz and like paneer are not that far off from each other.
You know how nice it is. Like I've had parties in my house where I'll get naan and I'll order and I'll have saag paneer.
Yeah.
And then I'll drizzle a little pesto.
Ooh.
Come on, dude.
That sounds fucking incredible.
Green on green.
That's a thing I never had, but this is how fucking fat I am.
Yeah.
I'm tasting it.
Yes,
right.
I know you could taste the pine nuts, right?
I'm trying to understand that taste.
If you
someone that makes pesto, way too much.
Yeah. Yes.
I make pesto a lot.
Buddy, I love it.
Indian food.
I love it. And it's just like, think about like if you take a samosa and you fill it with like the same thing you would put like a meatball, the Italian seasoned meatball. I've done that. I've made Italian seasoned samosas.
Yeah, it's a fucking calzone.
Yeah, pretty much.
it's a
because
a fried calzone.
Yeah, all these things borrow off each other.
Right.
A pastry, like some sort of dough filled anything. Right? Whether pierogies, calzones, samosas, dumplings, all these things are just filled in with something.
You're like a little Italian, though.
I mean, that's what happens when you grow in Queens.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
In that era.
Yeah.
In that era. So how old are you?
I'm 39.
Yeah. All right. You motherfucker. Are you kidding me? That was the reaction before.
I know.
I thought
I was like waiting to see when you were going to ask my age. I'm like, I'm going to have to answer for this one.
Because I thought when you said that, you were at least like 45.
Yeah.
But because you said that, because I also thought you were younger than that.
Yeah, man, it's under. You know what? It's deserved. It's deserved. It's completely understandable.
But so the same era, right? Same era in Queens. Everyone is like in that sort of. It's a New York thing, you know.
It's just like there's certain like. Did I grow up around Italians? Yeah. No, but I've always said that, and I have this in my act where I go, New York City's 100 cultures that have come together to act slightly Italian.
For sure.
And that's what it is, man.
Sure.
And it's like certain things I don't say like a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Even the way New Yorkers I don't say New Yorker.
Yeah.
And I know I say it differently. So, and I get that, but that New York City energy is built into me.
I had to work the enunciation out. Like, I was listening back to stand-up tapes years ago, and I was like, oh, I sound too Italian.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I sounded too Italian. So I went through like 2 years of my life where you just in regular conversation, I just over enunciated.
Yeah, of course.
Like everything, I was like, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you, brother?
Yeah.
people just thought I was autistic for like 2 years.
You're trying to take regular, like instead of saying, yo, bro, what's good?
It was good, bro.
You're like, hello, brother.
I straightened out my handshake.
Yeah. Really firm. You know what I mean? Solid. Yeah, you try to acclimate as much as you can, and then you realize there's no real reason.
There's no reason. That goes back to the that mentality of like it comes back around when you get older.
Yeah.
Too, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh no, I'm just gonna wear like a hoodie and Jordans are like I don't really care about what the occasion is.
That's comfortable.
That's
baby.
me.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wearing.
Yeah, man.
Like I grew up on hip hop. That is that you know, part of that style is integrated into my style.
Of course.
Except for that period of time where you know, it was like button-down shirts and the gold chain and the.
Of
and
course,
the
but you're telling me. But there's still times that where it's just like you wear a button-up shirt. You got the gold chain maybe tucked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Jeans, maybe the Jordans. You know what I'm saying? The Jordans will still come out, or a nice pair of high tops of some sort. You're telling me if there's a little bit of a, you know, crispness in the air, you won't throw a hoodie over it?
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That New York situation. And when we were talking about sneakers, like I came here from a gig, and I'm wearing like driving clothes. When we talked about sneakers, I tucked in my shoes, even though they can't see them, because I felt a certain way because I'm wearing like running shoes. But at the same time, like, yo, I got nice shoes in the car.
Yeah, I got kicks.
Yeah, I got kicks in the car, dude. They're iridescent, bro. You're gonna love them. But that's how that New York mentality where shoes are a thing. And it's just like, you always like, listen, you have more hoodies than most people in this country. Yes. Like, you know what I mean? On 100%. On average.
It's the thing it's the thing I buy the most of.
Yeah, of course.
T-shirts and hoodies.
Absolutely. There's certain things that it's just built into you as a New Yorker.
If I never had to wear like slacks and a button-down shirt, I would.
Of course you never. Yeah.
Especially now as a fucking dad. I'm so goddamn tired. You know how great it is to throw on like a nice. Me and my daughter wearing fucking matching Wu-Tang hoodies.
Oh,
that's the best.
That's beautiful.
The fucking best, man.
When I hear stuff like about parents doing that kind of stuff, that's the kind of stuff that goes, man, being a parent's got to be fun.
Yeah, that part of it.
That of course. And that's like one small sliver in just a sea of other like nonsensical things.
You look at that dad. And like I'll have a T-shirt that says Biggie and she's got one that says Smalls.
Right?
It's corny.
It's cute.
But it's cute.
Yeah.
And you look at me and like, oh, that's dope. You get comments and stuff. Yeah. They have no idea how hurting, how much I'm hurting.
Yeah. Lower back in agony. Yeah. Just always constantly having to deal with.
You can't tell her.
No, of course not. You know, I think about this is that like we were talking about the journey of like immigrant parents, but it's just like all they went through. And then it's just like, you got to think about like they went through so much.
They went through a lot.
Yeah, and it's just like weird. I don't know if we're doing enough. You know what I mean? That's what I constantly feel like.
Yeah. I mean, they worked physically. They worked their asses off.
Yeah, I think about like when I never bitch about having to move.
Right.
Because I think about what my parents. Like, it's just like how
you're moving within Queens or you're moving to Brooklyn. That's not the same as.
That's like somebody, when somebody complains to me about having to move, I go, are you out of your mind, dude?
Yeah, you don't go from Queens to Brooklyn and they're like, well, your papers aren't ready. You got to go back home.
Yeah.
You know, like that stress alone.
Like
the paperwork.
People still speak English in Brooklyn to Queens. You know what I mean? Like it's not like the only person you could talk to is the person you live with. Are you out of your mind? That's wild. Like I heard a buddy of mine, another Indian dude, complaining to me about moving once, and I go, bro, you're out of your mind, dude. He goes, it's such a pain in the ass, and I go, your parents came here with jack shit. Dude, get some perspective.
It's the difference of saying, like, when we say I'm starving.
Yeah, you don't know hungry.
You're hungry.
Yeah,
you're a little hungry.
We could stand to be hungry a couple more times.
Right, I could stand to be hungry for the next like 4 fucking weeks.
Right. We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
But the food is so big. It's ingrained in me. My dad would be like. There was a period of time where my grandmother lived downstairs.
Who's the better cook in the family in terms of your dad?
My mom's a great cook, but my dad would do some shit.
Offensive. This is offensive what you're saying.
I know. No, she knows.
Yeah. She knows. Oh, she knows?
She knows. I don't say it anymore because of divorce, but like when they were together, I would like fucking dad hooks it up.
Yeah.
My dad's an incredible cook. And but you know, so he would. There was a period of time where my grandmother lived downstairs. She could barely walk at this point. She was elderly. She had this like. She was a big lady. She had this chair that would like basically dump her off the chair. It was one of those like it would just go. It was this slow, dude. As a visual for whoever's listening on audio, but this slow. This is the whole thing. It's going this way, and it would basically fucking dump her like on a construction site, like a fucking crane.
Yeah.
And she would get up and she would go in Italian. She would tell me, you know, I'm gonna cook something for you. Don't tell your father.
Oh God! Oh my God! Old
school,
Italian grandmother
I'd go down there
cooking
to take care of her.
Right?
To help her, do my homework and help her. But I didn't do anything. Maybe I had to put her socks on her massive feet.
Yeah,
you know, something like that.
One of my fondest memories is like the one grandparent I met is her in India sitting on a kitchen counter. Yeah, this woman's diabetic. Obese, really poor health, but her like cooking a meal for me and it just being some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life.
It's also, I mean, and it is a hard thing to explain if you didn't grow up with this, but it is the expression of love. They don't say I love you as much.
No.
They really don't.
No.
They like my dad wasn't like lovey-dovey guy. My dad hit us.
Yeah,
my dad,
of course.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we got smacked with by big fucking meat
Meaty
paws.
hands, yeah,
just
of course.
giant fucking meat paws would just take your little head and fucking fling your head across the room.
You think these people read a book on parenting, dude?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They'd hit you with books. Like, that's all they would do.
Yeah,
like,
hitting the books.
Yeah.
We're hitting the books today.
Yeah, that's it. It's crazy that like parenting then was so like Wild West, and it still is to a degree now. I think that like, but did you read a book on parenting for your kid?
I mean, multiple books, blogs, and continuation of like my wife more so.
Yeah, of course.
She cares more.
Yeah,
but like she, you know, the multiple like influencers that follow that basically just recycle the fucking the book that was written in like 20 years ago. They're just like now, I'm an expert at this.
They've all read the book and they're quoting it. This is the thing. I think that it's necessary because they'll say it in a way that makes sense to us. But I think that back then nobody read books on parenting.
No.
Like now,
You couldn't tell a parent.
no, of course not.
My dad used to tell other fucking old Italian men if I was like in their house because I was playing with their kid or whatever.
Yeah.
He would say if he acts up, you could hit him.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
if
That's
someone,
the worst kind of permission slip.
If someone yelled at my daughter, they're dead.
Yeah.
Like I would have I say to my wife half jokingly all the time, like I just fear going to jail because like between boys and just fucking people,
Of course.
just life, I am so anxiety
I can't even
driven.
begin. Like, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to what you're like feeling about having to be that protective self.
Right.
Meanwhile, parents back in the day be like, "You want to get a couple licks in? Go for it."
Go for it. My dad was giving me.
Yeah, like, hey, Silvio, you had a tough day at work? Carmelo's looking to take a few hits.
He's got a fucking good jaw.
Yeah,
he's got a good jaw.
Yeah. The kid could take a few. Yeah, and it's crazy that they would be allowed to do that.
Fucking and it happened.
Yeah,
it's not
of
like
course.
It's not people were like, "Oh, stop."
Yeah.
They would fucking hit you.
Yeah, that's
Your guys
nuts.
are mouthing out. They'd hit their own kid and then they'd
But
hit
if
you
a
in the
parent
mouth.
now raises their voice
Yeah.
to your daughter, another parent,
No.
I will run you over with my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, you don't even have to raise your voice. You give my fucking kid an attitude.
You give him a weird look.
You give him a weird fucking look at a
if you give him a
playground.
look I don't trust, even if the kid didn't even see it, you look at my kid weird at the back of their head.
Right.
It's a
my
problem.
kid
Yeah.
stepped in front of yours. They made no contact.
Yeah.
You gave my kid a dirty look.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that look?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a problem in the playground.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
a problem in the playground.
You're acting like security.
Yeah.
You got the thing in the ear. You know?
Yeah, right.
We've seen some confrontation.
But when I was a kid, everything was me and my brother's fault.
Yeah, of
everything
course.
was our fault. Of
course.
Right? Like
Yeah.
no matter what and we like broke things in the house. We were
Sure.
playing wrestling and shit like that.
Right.
Sometimes it was like I have these two this will tell you who my dad is.
Mm-hmm.
There's one distinct memory of him chasing my brother around the dining room table. My brother's like doing the thing where he's like going to this side, going to that side. And I'm off. My brother's 4 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off to the side crying. I'm like, just stop. It's going to be worse. And I'm crying for him.
Yeah, right.
And it was. I mean, when he caught him.
That is so beautiful.
My brother we had a railroad apartment in Bushwick.
Yeah.
He got beat from one side. He did the full railroad.
Yeah.
Like he fucking.
Your dad's been working on the railroad all the live long day, dude. Just beating them. You know what's crazy? That's really sweet. Like that's such a. I mean, it's a horrible situation that your dad is beating. He's hitting the kids.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
That's terrible. But you know what's real? My takeaway from that is like I try to look at these things like other people's like growing up situations, and I go, but the sweet part to me is that you're riding for your brother.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's so dope. Like if my brother, I remember like my brother getting like beaten or whatever.
Yeah.
I look at him, I was like, yo, get him, dude.
Get him. I mean, look, it depends on the situation.
It ain't me. I ain't dealing with it.
Yeah. It depends on the situation.
Of course,
for sure.
of course.
But my brother got into fucking fights for me. Like we grew up pretty close.
Yeah.
And but my dad and my dad also. I'm not saying he walked in the house and punched us in the face.
Sure.
Well, I was just about to say it wasn't abusive, but I think by today's standards, it would be definitely considered abusive.
No.
But
it was abusive. It's abusive. Like this. What do you mean, dude? It's abusive by also like you should, even like light smacks to kids, just real bad.
Oh yeah. I think about that all the time. I'm like, why would you
have conversations like about that? Like people
with my
like,
wife?
No. I mean, sure. I'm sure you do, but like. The idea of hitting kids.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
If you think about that.
Right.
I look at my daughter's 3. I look at her size.
Yeah.
And I think about it all the time because I don't know what age my dad started hitting me.
You could
probably
level your
3.
kid with a flick.
For sure.
Yeah. She's 3
years
old.
by mistake turned around from the kitchen counter and knocked her down.
Yeah.
And annihilated her.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's literally a stack of envelopes.
Right. She's 30 pounds.
Right. It's
She's 30
absurd.
pounds.
Yeah.
I'm 200 pounds heavier than her.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, I had to try to, I remember I was working on this bit about like, you shouldn't hit your kids.
Right.
And the amount of pushback that I would get.
It's a hard line with people's beliefs on that.
It's so crazy.
It's a hard fucking
line.
line.
And it's just like, for me to tell people like, dude, you shouldn't hit your kids. And they're like, you don't understand. It's like, no, man, there's no like, it's like, I remember somebody trying to tell me, he's like, no, sometimes you got to smack them. And I go, when? When
they're attacking you with a knife? When do you have to defend yourself?
Yeah,
because what else would you hit a kid for?
Why are you comparing your 30-pound child to a home invader? It's like, what is wrong with you, dude?
Right, I have the right to defend myself.
Yeah,
against...
they talk like I have to stand my ground. It's like, what ground are you standing?
No, dude, it's fucking bonkers. And I don't know about you. I grew up doing this. Like, anytime somebody walked behind me, I thought they were smacking me on the neck.
You know, it's crazy that you say that, because I remember being like 23 years old, my best friend, and coming in to give me a hug, and me flinching.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he's like, bro, you got to get that fixed. And I was like,
there's no fixing this.
Yeah, and I was like, and I felt so ashamed.
Yeah.
And no, man, I got to disagree. Like, it took a long time.
No, yeah.
It took a long time to get it sorted. And don't get me wrong, but if you come at a weird angle and I don't see you coming, I still get like that.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
It is crazy, but at the same time, it's built into you, dude.
And it's not good.
And exactly. That brings back to the point of like, I couldn't imagine being the reason why my kid is flinching.
Yeah.
They're out in the world thinking someone's going to hit them because dad hit her.
I got to ask you this.
That's fucking nuts. Getting mugged?
Yeah.
You know, you get into a car accident and then you get shaky in the car for the next 3 rides? Sure. Your dad did that to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
That's crazy.
Fuck that.
But I got to ask this, though, is like, how often do you think that you're messing up your kid?
Every day.
I think that to me is the only barometer that lets me know that you're doing a good job.
Because I'm thinking about it.
Because you're thinking about it. Because I don't think parents back then even considered it. No. No one ever they're like smoking a cigarette, ashing on a child, going, I'm doing a good job.
We grew up with a bunch of old Italian men sitting around a table with a plastic cover over the table, like dining room table with cigarette holes in it, because they'll get drunk and fucking... We were allowed to drink their coffee sometimes, their espressos. We were allowed to drink their beers. I had my first beer at 4. I remember I said to my dad, I want that, like all kids do. Yeah. And he goes, okay. Yeah. And he thought I was going to hate it, and I loved beer. Sure. The second I tasted it, I was like,
delicious.
This is incredible. Yeah, but he was like fine with it. You know,
because
that whole mentality.
Yeah.
And then the smoking and the hitting.
Yeah.
I mean.
But you know what's crazy? It's like, and this is where the sympathy aspect is like what I'm thinking about is like what they grew up with was probably a goddamn nightmare.
Oh yeah, teachers used to beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, I grew up in a place where my teachers hit me in Queens.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I remember getting
in the 90s. Teachers hit you?
I had a kindergarten teacher who slapped me across the face.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember
kindergarten. So you're 5.
Yeah, I'm 5, but I recall this woman hitting me, and I'm going, this is. And it's just like now as I'm approaching 40, I think about it and I go, well, what they grew up with had to have been so much worse.
Right.
I think about the stuff that they did like right before they got to raising me. You know what I mean? But there's a whole other life that they led. A whole other set of parents that they had.
Yeah.
You know,
that hit them.
That beat them. Like I remember my mom.
You saw their poverty. How about their poverty?
Right.
How about their parents and parents' poverty?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the stuff that I go, oh, we're making leaps and bounds in terms of growth.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's like, so I think my dad fought a lot. Mm-hmm. He would get into fights. Mm-hmm. Like that was just, you know, that he had a tendency to like discipline like that. I mean, my dad one time came to pick me up from school and his shirt was ripped. Mm-hmm. He was like bleeding on the side of his face. I was like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah.
And it was like one of the few times my dad would let me curse. I was like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
He's like, this guy came to the shop. Yeah. He wanted something. I don't know. Some fucking fight broke out. This happened multiple times. Here's another distinct memory of my dad. This is also tell you who my dad is. So the other day, my wife bought something I haven't seen or had in years. Marino's Italian ices.
Yeah.
Little wooden spoon. They don't have the wooden spoon anymore, but the little wooden flat spoon that was like a little hourglass figure shape. And you would just scrape. Yeah,
it's an Italian ice in a yellow container. It's got the little flat top. You peel it off. Yep. And then sometimes they do have like the wooden spoons there. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they throw it in the box. It depends. Sometimes you got to order.
They still make with the spoons?
Yeah, I mean, if you get them in the city, like at a cart, you can get them there. You know what I mean? You do
the bottom is super sugary.
That's where all the sugar rests.
Yes, right.
And then sometimes I like to do is where I would drill. I would drill in the center and then just like hollow out the center and then take out the whole thing and eat the sugary bottom like a pop.
That's funny because you have a way. So I'm sitting there with a spoon. Me and my daughter are eating it, and I'm talking to her about this was a thing that I ate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm scraping it with the regular spoon,
right?
Because I'm just so used to scraping it.
Of course.
And my wife's like, "Why are you eating it like that?" And I was like, "You do know my core memory of Marino's ices, right?" And then she remembered, which is, I'm about 4 or 5 years old. It's right before we leave Bushwick.
Right.
I'm in the car with my dad to go buy Marino's Italian ices.
God, that was such a treat, dude.
Such a fucking treat. Yeah. Not fucking some big ice cream shop. No. Not like some delectable dessert. This little fucking... I mean, how many ounces is it? It's probably like four ounces.
3 ounces if best.
It's nothing.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the contents of what's in it is truly horrifying.
I mean, when you eat because as a kid, I think a lot of kids like cherry until you realize cherry's a shit flavor.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's cherry's cough drops. Why are you eating
cherry? I mean, like all Marino's Italian ices is water that's been frozen into an icy form,
right?
An ungodly amount of sugar,
right?
And then some sort of flavoring that I'm sure by today's standards is poison.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a thing that, like, as my daughter's eating all organic things. This was like, my daughter's having a little treat right now.
Yes.
And I'm telling my wife, I'm reminding her of this story. So I go in the car with my dad. I'm about 4 years old. We go to the store, we get Marino's Italian ices. We're driving back. There's some sort of like police, like blockade with like a little protest thing happening on the street.
Yeah, right.
I'm too young to know what any of this is.
Of course.
I see people in the streets. I see the blue wooden barricades out, those old school NYPD. And my dad starts beeping, thinking they need to open this for me. And
of course
I
they do.
Through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course. My dad used to park on sidewalks.
Yeah,
like this is a guy.
Yeah, my dad once drove on a sidewalk because somebody had him blocked in.
Yeah.
He couldn't wait the 5 minutes.
That's how I go now. That's a way forward. I'm going.
People just jumping out the way. And I go, this is crazy. I know this isn't right.
So my dad starts beeping.
Yeah.
A cop comes up to the car and goes, "Don't you see that?" My dad is pretty illiterate with English, right? My dad went to 8th grade in Italy and never went to school in America.
Of course.
So he's like, there's a sign there that says like no noise or something like no beeping.
Yeah.
And he's beeping.
Yeah.
And now the cop goes, "Did you see the sign?" And he's like, and my dad's not going to say I can't read.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course not. Why admit that? Yeah. Why admit I can't read?
So instead, he goes, "Can you just move the fucking thing? I'm trying to get through with my kid."
Yeah.
And the cop, old school NYPD, by like Irish cop.
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't you fucking talk to me that way." And my dad's like, "Don't you fucking talk to me that way in front of my motherfucking kid."
Yeah.
Right now, I'm a 4-year. I'm fucking panicking.
Yeah.
I probably got like red cherry ice coming down my lip.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, "All right, pull over, get out."
No car seat either. You're definitely not sitting in a car seat.
I'm in the front seat.
Yeah, of course you are.
The front seat.
Yeah. You're having this Marino's Italian ice and you're asking your dad to hold your cigarette. Like it's so fucking.
Sidebar: when I was an infant, my mom carried me. My mom put me in a car in a wicker basket.
Of course,
she didn't even get like I was a loaf of bread.
Yeah,
like she didn't even get a car seat. She was like, they didn't have car seats in '85. Like they absolutely had car seats.
My mom,
they weren't what they are now.
My mom, when she would bring me to work, she'd put me in a filing cabinet. When it was nap time, she would just close the filing cabinet.
Put a pillow in?
Yeah. What's up?
A pillow?
Yeah, of course, a pillow on the end. She's not a complete monster. It wasn't just manila envelopes. But she would just put me in the filing cabinet and just close the thing. And it's just like, that's how I slept.
We're going to file this away to leave me the fuck alone for an hour.
This is under B for baby. Yeah.
So now the guy tells my dad, pull over.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls over. He fucking cuffs my dad.
Of course.
My dad gets out.
Yeah.
And he's resisting.
Yeah,
my dad is physically resisting now. 2-3 cops that jump on him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now in the back of a cop car for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Because we are getting driven into a fucking precinct.
Of course.
And this is where every time I see Marina's Ice, this is what I think of. I think of sitting there.
Yeah.
My dad's cursing at them through the fucking glass.
Yeah.
He's got his hands cuffed behind his back. And at one point he looks at me and he goes, "Oh, I'm so thirsty." And I went, "Here." And I just gave him a little bit of cherry ice to quench his thirst.
Yeah.
And it was like this little sad fucking moment where I just was like, oh, here, do you want some of this? And he's like, all right, thank you. And he takes some of the ice. And I could not see. This is the kind of shit where it's why I say, yeah, I do think about every day if I'm fucking my kid up. Because that is, I mean, I'm not getting into shit like that. But that shit sticks with you.
Of course.
I will never be able to see, maybe unless I ate them every day.
You know what's crazy
I beat the memory out of my head?
It's like memories, they're how we see them, right?
Yeah.
And I know in some ways you're looking at it like that, but that to me is a beautiful moment, dude. I think that's the most, it couldn't be any more of an Italian upbringing in that era moment.
I'm still like, he's got to eat.
Yeah, father and son's bonding moment. Dad in jail. And son feeding him Marino's Italian ice. If that isn't an advertisement for an Italian ice, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Right. That's an ad that we maybe back then could have ran.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I saw that right now, because you know how nostalgia hits big in a way, if you saw that as an ad, wouldn't you want to buy an Italian ice for your daughter?
Right. That little sad, like, hey.
Create that moment however you can. And you're looking at that and going, you know what?
However you can.
We'll just have this at the dining room table.
Yeah.
I don't need to be arrested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to get beat up by 3 cops. Me and my daughter can just sit here and enjoy this.
We don't need it.
Yeah, she doesn't need to be sitting shotgun.
Yeah.
We can just...
My daughter's core memories could be Disney.
Yeah, they can be nice.
They could be Disney.
Right.
And they can be,
and they can still have an Italian ice involved, just no domestic violence.
Yeah. It just shouldn't, that peel shouldn't make her fucking shiver in the future. You know? Like, oh, is it cold? No, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
All right, dude, let's wrap this up. I want you to be able to plug all your socials, your podcasts.
Yeah, all my social media is all the same. It's all day KCA. That's across the board on everything. And then you could just check out my podcast. You Both Suck is the name of the podcast. I do it with my buddy Dara Pollock. Very funny. It's
a very funny show.
It's essentially like we take problems that people are facing, whether they submit them or off the internet, and it's 2 people who've actually been to therapy will actually look through them as opposed to just lunatics.
Oh, is that how you source? I didn't realize that you were sourcing the topics.
Well, we get a lot of submissions through our website and stuff like that. So people submit some problems.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out. And this has been fun, dude.
Yeah, man, this is great. Kunal, thank you so much.
Of course.
Fucking very funny. Check out Kunal. I'm Carmelo Bon Jovi. This is a bit too much.